Hello, good evening, sir. We're starting late at 7:45. I had the wrong place in my calendar and ended up waiting for everybody at the courthouse. Fortunately, they know I texted me and others where I should be. So here we are, 7:45. We're gonna do the pledge and get right into the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee White, trustee Casada,
Present.
Mayor Levin.
Present.
Public hearing in the matter of proposed law 2024 titled "A Local Law Amending Chapter 8 Civilian Police Complaint Review Board" of the Village of Austin Code. Is there anyone that's here that wishes to speak on that?
Hello. Just give us your name and then speak right into mic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. It's gotta be the green and then name and address, please. You could also just pull it out and hold it if you want.
That's
to.
okay. Name and address?
Name and address would be appreciated.
Sure. Joseph Spinelli. Yeah, I am currently a police sergeant with the police department here in the village and the PBA president. And my address is 88 Spring Street, Austin, New York. 4 minutes. Okay. So, sorry, on behalf of the PBA, I'm gonna hold it. We just want to express a few concerns about the change to the local code regarding the civilian investigator. So we're just gonna not really ask questions, but I'm just gonna go through some concerns that we have. As far as the training for the investigator, the only mention in the code is the investigator will go through the same training as the members on the board, and the criteria, or the qualifications will be determined by the board. So, and no mention in here is, what's the list of qualifications, and there's no mention of any prior experience or training in investigating a complaint or any kind of investigation. So that's a concern. There's no mention of where this investigator is from. Is it a private company, someone from the community? Is it like just where is the pool of investigators, or where would they be pulled from? Is it the same person every time, or is it, somewhat different when it's requested? And then it's very vague on when it says when the investigator would be used. It only says one requested by the board. So there's no, criteria or any guidance of when a civilian investigator would be called in. So I think it needs to be a little more explained in the code as far as the training for the investigator, the qualifications, where they're coming from, and when they would be used. And also, there's a cost that really doesn't affect us, but it also is, a question that's come up. So overall, I believe our investigators are the most qualified to investigate any matters. They're trained, they're experienced, they train us. So when they're investigating or interviewing us, they're speaking to us about what we're trained to do by the department. So they have the high expectations and they know what to look for. So if the board in the future or down the line, I don't think you're voting on this tonight. If you want to sit down with the PBA, we'd be more than happy to have a little more discussion and talk about, the change in the code.
Thank you. It's okay. Thing doesn't work that well. It used to. All right. Any comments or questions, people? There's only one of you on this side or that side. Yeah, well, okay.
Jamie, is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to raise their hand, virtual hand, of course, to speak on this public hearing number A?
No.
Anybody else here? Okay. You have any comments?
Nope.
Thank you.
Right.
Are you about to say?
Yeah, no, thank you. I was trying to remember because this is not this is just an amendment to the current law that or an extension to the law that we passed a couple years ago. And I'm trying to remember a lot of the stuff I think we have gone through the reasons why and who qualifies and who not. So I wish in a way that Omar will be here because he's been the most involved on this whole process along with Stuart. So unless Eureka remember some of the reasons why. But if not, I'm going to defer
So-
that question to
Oh, it's
Stuart
okay,
if
Stuart can
anything.
also answer, but
Yeah.
this is 2 years already, so it's fine that somebody's coming up now. This is 2 years old. It's part of the police reform of more than 2 years ago. There were a lot of discussions. There's an amendment. It's an independent body. It's used in other municipalities and other states. The board serves on behalf of the public. It doesn't need permission to do investigation. It just doesn't need it. And this has been in discussions for more than 2 years. We haven't used any of this yet. There hasn't actually been a reason. Many of the groups like this one who serve, by the way, on behalf of the board. This is a group appointed by the board and serves on behalf of the board. It's hard to say what it will be since they have yet to do any of this. Stuart, you sit on the committee, there's a police officer on the committee, the deputy mayor is on the committee, and then a few members of the public who were appointed to the committee. So do you want to enlighten us into
Just to be
specific?
clear, they're all civilian members. It was changed. There are no longer OPD members. There are OPD.
That's right, I'm sorry. In the
advisors.
beginning it was, and now they're advisors, they're not members.
That's correct.
They go to the meetings and they advise. Their purpose is
If
to
there's a-
advise the committee on police issues.
Right.
You know, if there are actually exactly, if there are issues with this, could have been brought up as well. They're an advisory role. In other words, they don't vote.
That is
We're-
correct.
And even if the committee votes, their votes are only in relation to recommending to the board. Their vote isn't something that once they vote, it's a done deal. All it is what are we bringing to the board? The board then decides and makes recommendations, asks
Right.
questions, et cetera. And oftentimes these amendments are a result of something coming up that we need to tweak. So Stuart, if you can also, because you've gone to a lot of the meetings, if not all, so.
Right. I mean, the idea of the civilian investigator was something that came up part of when we had the Matrix folks and all that was done. There was a large, a major recommendation then. As you pointed out, Mayor, we've not had to use or even request a civilian investigator. So that was one of the reasons for this proposed local law is to extend everything out by 2 years.
If I may just interject,
Yeah.
because there was a time frame. We put time frames on this committee and we extended the frame of this committee. We didn't have to, but we did for another 2 years. Most committees just keep running. This one actually had a time slot. And this particular item also ran out, which is what we're doing now.
Right, Mayor, just to correct.
No, it's okay. I know it's a nuance. It's
No, no,
okay.
No. It's the police reform advisory that actually has the sunset.
Oh, that's right.
CPCRB does not, but.
You're right.
But
Excuse
this
me.
particular provision related to the
Does,
civilian investigator
yes.
did, so it was to be extended.
Right.
And one of the things that the CPCRB is currently doing is looking at its policies as procedures, including vetting as to who would ultimately be civilian investigators, which would ultimately, the CPCRB would have to come back to this board anyway, because it would be an appointment by this board to do that. The intention when this was adopted back in 2019, I think,
Mhm.
was that there would be multiple potentially civilian investigators, that there would be sort of a pool that could be chosen from to make use of that if that was to occur. But to date, we haven't had to call upon that. There's been no request. But it would be something that would be a determination made by the civilian members of the board of the CPCRB if they thought it was necessary.
Right.
And since it hasn't come up at all, the thought was push it out for 2 years, at least that one particular part of the statute, to see that in the event that it's needed, it's still there because
be set
the
up.
experiment was never even,
Yeah,
Sorry.
it never took off.
Right.
The other piece of this, though, just so we're clear,
microphone may have gone off or just stop. Yeah,
meeting's 15 minutes in, so how can the microphone be out? So the board isn't gonna, and then we don't do this in a lot of committees. We don't dictate every sentence and every nuance. We have committees, there are citizen committees, and when the committee designs part of this and makes recommendations for. It's just that I can hear things up here. Hello? The sound travels this way, so if you want to talk out there, because I can actually hear everything. So I think the important fact is the committee is going to start creating what they think is the right thing. Anybody who wants to have input is free to advise them, and I think the officer that's there can advise them as well and have input into it if asked. And then the board's going to look at the list of what they think makes sense to have for this position. It's not a position that's going to be on our staff. It's a position that only gets activated if and when this particular committee comes to the board and says, hey, we need someone here, and this is the kind of thing that's going on. This is what's happening. I don't know if it'll be an exec or it's open meeting. It depends what it is and what the allegations are. It's a little bit hard to tell since I haven't used it yet, haven't done it. And there was an idea of the pool. So because I think the committee at first thought, oh, we're going to have a lot of incidences. We've had like 0 in 2 years. So, and they know that. So they're rethinking some of their original thoughts, and they're not all the same people. So I look forward to actually what the recommendation is. The board will look at it at that important time. We'll see what we're doing. This change is just to extend 2 years, what we did 2 years ago. What else?
May I just?
Yeah.
So, and not to take in consideration what your requests are in regards on behalf of the PBA, I was not even aware that the current board right now, not this, obviously, the police review is actually looking
The other
to
one.
police review complaint.
civilian.
Civilian,
Thank
right.
you. So I was not aware, I was not aware that they're actually looking to modify this current, I don't want to say current law because it's still sort of valid at this point, in regards to training, or finding people that will actually be reviewing. That aside, because that has not been in front of us. Like I said, I was not even aware of that is happening.
Wasn't that
right
last week?
No, there may be a misunderstanding. There's been no discussion by the CPCRB to
Right.
change any of the training with regard.
No,
to these
I understand that, but what Rika said is that they're looking into find someone that does the investigation.
No.
Did I misunderstood that
Yeah,
portion?
what I said is they will be looking into what criteria they would like to see, which is what they did 2 years ago. And then once they come up with something, I look forward to seeing what their thoughts
Okay.
are. They're not even at that
So-
stage yet.
Got you. All right, so in regards to what is in front of us now. So may I ask the board and obviously Stuart at this point, and like I said, it was just brought up some interesting point on my perspective, that if we're looking internally, or the previous boards, not the board, the civilian complaint review board is looking into create some sort of criteria and some guidelines. Why can't we just hold up on this until they come up with something instead of us modifying this law in 6 months from now, unless we put some sort of caveats in here of guidelines of training of people, or like just criteria that we know that we have established before, but not as part of the law itself. is any language that we can put in to address those concerns here, Stuart? In a broad way that will encumber a lot of the stuff that they may be coming up, and then the board, we just have to change a lot of the stuff already.
It's sort of tough to answer only because it's sort of in a vacuum. I mean,
Right.
the fact of the matter is, I believe that the way that chapter 8 reads now is that there is a position of civilian investigators to assist the board in those matters where the board believes that assistance is needed. The particular types of training, and I think the sergeant gave a fairly good explanation of what the local law says. And it's not anticipated that you're going to just pull somebody off the street. It may not be an attorney, may not be a person who's in a particular area of law enforcement, or maybe it is or it is not. I will say this board determines who the civilian investigators are, not the CPCRB. Because it's going to come before this board as to the way it's worded is this board will decide what the qualification should be and who those individuals should be. In fact, if there's, let's say, be it a request for qualifications that goes out, it's going out under the auspices of this board. And this board will ultimately make that decision. And then based upon who those individuals are, the CPCRB could say, well, we think on this case, we need a civilian investigator, but they're not appointing the civilian investigator.
They're just making
yeah.
suggestions,
Yep.
not about people, what they might look for, since what are we voting on tonight? Because I think this has totally gone off in a tangent, because it actually has nothing to do with the person we're appointing and what they're gonna look like and who they are.
Mayor, it's a 2-year extension.
That's what we're voting on, is a
December
2-year
31st
extension.
December 31st, 2026. That's
Right.
We have to do it tonight for time reasons, I imagine.
because it extends, it would end on December 31st of 2024.
We don't have time to hold back while we rethink the investigator question, which I thought we had resolved. But I guess
Well,
not.
I mean,
We
local-
have
the
resolved.
Local law
Yeah.
deals with that now. In other words, Article 8 already references that, chapter 8 has that in there.
But that's not what's in question tonight.
No, tonight is just because because the civilian investigator was essentially a brand new provision. The idea with the board at that time was to have it sunset on December 31st and to see before December 31st how it was working. We have had no matters.
Right,
So the idea is extend it for 2 years so that maybe in 25 or 26, we can come back and say, oh, this is how it's been going. But there've been no matters to report, so there's nothing to judge it on. That's why.
this is not a staff position. We're not hiring anybody. We're not, this is not an HR issue. This is part of what we all agreed on. And it just extends it for 2 years because as Stuart just said, we were supposed to look at the results and then edit them. But there's nothing to edit because there's no results. There's nobody here. And it could be a retired, some of the suggestions were that other communities in the United States use retired cops or lawyers or not cities. Cities have entire divisions that deal with this stuff. Retired judges. I mean, there was all this, people that could be, because it's not a coded job. The only thing that's happened here is that we haven't had any situations. So all we're doing is extending what we agreed to a couple years ago. The committee may or may not come back with some suggestions. They'll do some research. They might research what other communities do. We may like it, we may not. I don't know, but he's got to put this into legislation because otherwise it just goes to the, what are we extending if not just the ability to do this for a couple more years?
No, but this is
Until November, I guess, or December.
But this is a public hearing, sure, right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's
Well,
not-
we're
if it's
explaining what
not
we're voting
extended, what
on.
Effectively, what happened is that those sections of the code dealing with the civilian investigator would sunset.
Sunset.
They would end. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
In other words, if it's not extended.
So,
Similar to, for tonight, for example, one of the things that the board will be, or just recently adopted, was the change to bring back the video conferencing, because that had sunset by virtue of code. It's now extended to the end of June of
Yeah.
26.
But would it be fair to say that when and if the time comes where an investigator is needed, that the process of choosing that person is transparent, right? It's not like, I mean, people will see who is being recommended, I would think.
Well, of
or-
course, because
or
they
is
have
it-
to
or is
come
there-
to us.
Is it all, is that all very confidential? I don't
No, they have
No,
to come to us.
It's going to be, it will be, this board will make all the decisions. The board will determine who those individuals should be, and it will be an open process.
Publicly,
It will not
okay.
be, will not
Alright.
be.
We may just decide, we know who we want to, it might be an organization that has these kind of folks, and we just go to that organization. Haven't really investigated a lot of it. Stuart just is putting it on our slate for the public, and we're doing public hearing, we're not doing any codes or anything. So I'd like to vote for closing, it. No, we don't do the same person twice,
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
somebody else wants to. speak.
Somebody else can come up and do it. There's like a lot of rules and protocols, so. 4 minutes, yeah, because it's public hearing. No. Hello, sir.
George Byrne.
Hello.
Assistant Police Department, 88 Spring Street. All right, my question is, if it hasn't been used, why extend it? I mean, if apparently it's not, at least in my view, it's not needed.
Mhm.
And it speaks of volumes that is not needed, which is
Right.
a good thing.
Okay,
I mean, I mean, it's obvious that something that is not needed doesn't need to be extended.
right.
I mean, that's my particular.
It's not obvious. It's obvious to you. This is not a Q&A point of view. It's a public hearing, so we'll take that into account. We're only deciding based on comments from the public right now. This public hearing matter, we can vote on it tonight or not vote on it. So because something isn't used doesn't mean we don't have it. And when we need it, we can't go through the whole rigmarole of weeks and weeks of public hearings and putting new codes in. It's a lot of work and a lot of time consumption. And when we're gonna need it, we will need it at that point in time. So extending things actually is a lot easier. If we don't need it in the next 2 years, it'll sunset, because that was sort of what we discussed last time. You know, we'll give it a shot and see if it's something that works. The public has a right to, in our citizen committees, of which we now have 14, you know, they have input into what happens in our community. It's, you know, it's something that has come up.
We're not against it.
Well, again, it's not, it's a public hearing, so the way it would be helpful is to hear what it doesn't matter who's against it, for it, likes it, hates it. It's a public hearing, which means the public, including you, any member of this public that lives in our community, comes in front of us, says, look, here's what I think about this. This is how I care about it. It's not a representation of anything more than this is our input. That's why we also record everything, and we'll also discuss it with the committee, that the opinions that were given by the public, in this case, 2 members of the public, maybe 3, we aren't giving our opinion, we're listening for the opinion. So I'm just, that's how public hearings work on all topics, this being one of them. So are there any other comments? So do we have do you want to do it?
We have a motion to close the public hearing?
We have 3 people here, so do you want to second it or not?
In a second, but I want to make a comment. And I want to say thank you to the PBA that actually came here tonight to speak on some of the concerns that they may have, or they have. Closing the public hearing doesn't mean that we are passing this law. Closing this public hearing just means that it goes to the next stage. So if there's any modifications that we can see, that unless we're voting for that tonight, which I don't remember seeing that in here.
No, it's just
So
the,
if it's
Yeah.
my advice, not just to the public that is here, but to anybody that is watching, that may be watching this week or next week, is just to send us emails. If we feel something that is actually makes sense for us to make modifications, we'll ask Stuart to make those changes. So please don't feel that by closing this public hearing, this is it.
excuse me.
The law that we're passing here, or not passing, we are extending here, is gonna be it. again, if there's some modifications that the board feels strongly that we should make changes at that time, we can do that from the floor. We can ask Stuart to modify something, some language at that point before we're actually voting for this law. So
Okay.
Would
This,
the CPCRB be involved in that? Themselves?
okay, I'm gonna go through
Okay,
this
we're not
again.
going through
I'm,
this
I'm
part.
gonna do this again. This is a public hearing vote. We're not voting on a law. This is for the public to come forward. The board generally doesn't really comment because that, unless it wants to, any board member can comment on anything. We generally don't. We are here to listen. You didn't actually say that you're representing the PBA. All you did was say, are you representing the PBA in all your comments? Both of you are. Okay, great. And I know you're a member, that you're the president of the PBA, but you're doing this on behalf. So I'm just making sure, because people listen to the recording, so I just want to make sure everybody hears it. So we will take the commentary. The only thing we're voting on is what we've already voted on in the past. What we are now extending, that's what this says. And the only thing being voted on is to open the public hearing, which we just did. And now there's a motion in play to close the public hearing, not to vote on the law right now, to close the public hearing. That said, as trustee Casada said, anybody who wants to write an email to the committee, they're on the website, to Stuart, to the board BOT at Village of Ossining, to any member of the board individually, all of those things together. It's, the public has a right to be heard on the matter. That's why we do this. Please email it to us. And that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of a vote, right?
Any more comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing B, proposed law 2024 entitled "A Local Law Amending Chapter 194, Peace and Good Order, General Ordinances for Quality of Life to Chapter 190, Parks and Recreation of the Village of Ossining Code." Is there anyone that wishes to speak on that topic?
That's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuart, I can't, the link, I can't go through the link on my phone.
You remind us.
So,
Oh,
and either of them, I can't, the link's not working. Yeah,
give me 1 second, Pat. I'll just.
I just want to, and I know Jamie's listening in,
Fine,
so.
folks. These are revisions to 2 chapters. The first, which is the Peace and Good Order, deals with, we discussed, folks using public and private areas that are open to the public, essentially as bathrooms, to make it a little bit stricter in terms of the code, so that both on private property as well as on village property, where such actions are observed, they can in fact be written up for appearance tickets and be fined by the court. There's also a revision with regard to drones, which is a section in here. And then a significant revision is to put in a whole new Article 2 dealing with smoking and vaping on all village properties, including village parks. The revision to the recreation and parks was to take out the sections that dealt with smoking, because that would all be now covered under the new article smoking there. So that's in a nutshell what that deals with.
Okay, we have a member of the public that looks like he wants to speak. Hello, Pat. Is it on?
Hello.
Nope.
Patrick
There it
Gross,
is.
20 Overton Road, Austin. Really quick comment related to the 194 section on drones. My reading of the wording is that it's absolute, so basically it's a no-fly zone, but I would think that there are some valid reasons for flying drones, such as performing surveys. Realtors use them quite often to take pictures of housing and yards, and also photography. It is a reasonable use. One of my favorite pictures of our house is from a drone, actually. So just my suggestion would be that consider that there could be some useful purpose for drones and use of drones within the area, in addition to those that are from the use of the police drone as well.
So police, village, that's not part of these, that's always excluded, I believe. So use of police, right?
The police, yes, the police is excluded. They-
And
that was-
safety, I think. They use them for fire also to look, when there's a fire to see on the cars and all that. I believe those are excluded, actually. Okay.
That's it.
Got it.
Yeah, that was
Are you
it.
speaking on behalf of you or are you
Me.
speaking on behalf
No,
of the
on
committee?
behalf of me.
On behalf of you, not the committee. You're
Yeah.
still on the committee, right?
Yes.
The Parks and Rec and
Yeah, I'm
stuff?
still on the Parks and Rec
Okay.
committee. But this,
Thank you.
this is purely my.
This is your personal
Me.
commentary. Thank you. Stuart, thoughts, comments?
We can potentially massage some of that language to open it up. Want to be careful because you do get into a circumstance.
Did you, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Sorry, my name.
No, that's fine. Go ahead,
You
Stuart.
do get into a circumstance where there are some courts, particularly when it comes to code enforcement, that have limited the ability to use drones to check other properties. Some courts, not all. The legal terminology is called curtilage, so that you, the word of the day. So you can watch what you're doing. But I do think, and I do understand what the speaker is saying. You do have obviously Google Earth, and you have other means where drones are flying over. I think that we can perhaps put in. Right now, the way it's worded is no person other than a designated representative of OPD shall fly. And except that it says that nothing in this section shall prevent the flying of model airplanes. And it doesn't say drones specifically, but in areas that are designated by recreation. But I believe that what Pat is referring to is not necessarily areas that are recreation, but it could be if he wanted to take a picture or something like that. I think we can work the language some way. I had put in specifically police because I know police use the drone and I did not want to exclude that. Mayor, you mentioned the use in terms of potentially with in firefighting.
Yeah, I recently found that out. Yeah.
So I think this particular section can be worked on so that we can perhaps broaden it, but not to such an extent that someone may think their civil liberties are being, that people are just over there photographing willy-nilly.
Right.
So I think, I can work on that.
Yeah, and something that can be enforced, because if somebody wants to take a really great picture of their house, there's no way we would know whether they're doing their house or their neighbor's house. And, you have to sort of say to yourself, we have to make a decision. Otherwise, I mean, this is why some municipalities struggle with this. But there's been a lot of privacy issues with neighbors, and not in a good way, because people think that their backyard might be private, swimming pools with children in them, young children and neighbors taking pictures. So you might want to take a picture of your house, but some people take pictures of their neighbors and all of that. So we're just gonna have to, whatever we do, it's never gonna be perfect, but it's also has to be enforceable. Otherwise,
Well,
it's
that's
just
why-
impossible.
I think that's why we wanted.
Let's look at,
That's why I think we put it to OPD because we know they have.
yeah,
And that in the rec area, it would be specifically, they would have their own rules with regards to the
Right.
parks. As when you start getting into residential neighborhoods, even if you're saying you're just gonna photograph your home.
Right.
It's almost impossible that you're not gonna get the next one. or
right.
something.
So I think we're gonna have to look at that. So thank you. And do we have another public comment on this topic?
Patrick McGovern, 88 Spring Street. Part 107 FAA pilot since 2018. I'm also a senior instructor with the US military, the Army, National Guard. And I've been instructing there since 2019, specifically in the use of drones. So reading through this section, it seems it was originally applied to airplanes. The airplanes that have been used.
Are you hearing music?
I am.
Oh. Oh, it's a cell phone? Okay.
RC planes originally that were used, they don't have any GPS in them. They can kind of veer off on the side. If anyone's been down to Croton Point Park, they have a specific area that's just for flying RC planes. And there's a club in Westchester that flies down there.
Mhm.
They fly down there because if that thing just, you lose control, it's gonna go off into the distance. There's been massive advancements in the last 15 years in drones. They have GPS in them. The battery starts getting low, they come back on their own. The FAA is currently in the process of a Part 108 license, which will enable flight over people and beyond visual line of sight. So you won't have to keep eyes on it the whole time. You can fly wherever. Yonkers had a drone as a first responder program where they had a drone that was flying over people at all times, only responding to emergencies.
Hmm.
So that being said, they're getting more pervasive in use. I spoke to Palo Alto. They had a drone as first responder program for since 2019, I believe. They had 3 incidents where they drones went down,
Eddie,
and we're talking
you-
thousands of hours of flying. 3 different drones going. As far as privacy from above, there was a 1989 court case out of Florida. The police department actually used a helicopter to surveil from above, was able to find marijuana growing in a field, and they bought a court case about it, and judge determined there that you have no expectation of privacy from above. So right now, the FAA really, if you're flying down and looking in through someone's window, yeah, that's not, you're violating their rights at that point. From above, to see what a drone really sees, it's kind of vague. You're not seeing and you're not invading someone's privacy. And if I had a Cessna, I could do the same thing at 1,000 feet with a telephoto lens. I think just the way it's worded is extremely aggressive and overreaching. I mean, the way I'm reading this is I can't fly inside my own house with the little FPV drone. I can't fly anywhere in the village at all. There's a lot of people that have drones going down to the waterfront. Maybe I understand it's a town, but flying out over the water, there's no one out there. It's not hurting anyone. FAA already has rules against flight over people. You're not allowed to fly over people. A moving car is considered a person. Don't ask, that's what the FAA says. Oh, that's about it.
Okay.
Sorry for going off, but I just feel
You've done a lot of the work on it. Stuart, I mean, it's unusual, but, do you want to sit, together and just see or send to him? Because he has some expertise that we don't.
Sergeant and I work together on a lot of things.
Right.
This would be-
So, no, I know, but we're like, I'm
No,
trying to
this-
put this on the public record here.
This-
So, and I don't want everybody else walking in here and saying, well, you let Pat do it, so we should all be like talked to before we pass any laws. That's not what I'm saying.
I understand.
But for the record, if there are something, because you have an expertise that Stuart might call upon, then maybe that might be helpful to us. The issue is that we need first responders, the police, to be able to see what's going on. And just like Google goes around, what we can't have are people sort of looking at their neighbors and children. We have, as you know, a village where many of the residences are very tightly wound together. And so, and things that we pass have to be enforceable. So this is the trade-off in life, right? I don't know about the water. We could probably say anything over the water is not even important to us, because whatever you're taking over water may not, like I didn't even think about that, but we have people who are by the waterfront. So let's rethink some of the wording maybe.
We will, but
I
Mayor.
can't link on to see what it is. I
And,
can't.
and one suggestion I have, and I will certainly talk to the sergeant, for purposes of the local law that we're here tonight, it might not be bad to excise this particular section for now,
Mhm.
because there will be more work that has to be done in terms of what that restriction may or may not be. It was put in here because you're beginning to see other municipalities restrict where drones are and where they can be used.
Oh, 100%. We could also just keep this open for 2 to 3 more weeks till more conversations going on.
You could keep. we
Well,
can
it's
keep
much
the
easier to
hearing-
do that.
So we can keep the public hearing open until the 16th.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
And if we need more, we'll do more.
That'll be fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
We just need mo- public hearing.
yeah.
I have a motion to keep the public to adjourn the public hearing.
So move.
Sue,
All in favor?
aye.
Moving on, mayor and trustee announcements.
Okay. So, Dana, do you have something?
Yes, we have a new business on Main Street in the former Penny and Ting storefront. It's Just Eyes Optometry, and Dr. Sarah Dawson has been working out of her home for several years, but now she's got a proper storefront on our Main Street downtown. So if you need glasses or an eye exam, and she's great, she's an independent sort of outfit, so she uses a lot of her frames and vendors for frames and lenses are not your typical mega optical, you know, they're often made out of recycled materials or upcycled, or, you know, they're independent frame designers, so that's kind of cool too. Anyway, she's open for business, so pay her a visit. I've been using her for years and I've never complained.
Manny? Okay, so the good thing about me being late, aside from how obnoxious it might be that I was late, is that the planters that were put in the village look beautiful, but I have to say, at night, they actually like illuminate. Because yes, because the lighting that we have, LED lighting, actually make them brighter at night. So I noticed that tonight, that they actually are much more visible at night than they are during the day, which was really cool. So it was really great, actually. So I know that you worked on the committee with the placemaking.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to a few people if I.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna do that, but go ahead.
Oh, you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
You're the liaison to the committee.
It was a team effort, but I'd like to give a major shout out to Dana Anders, who's a horticulturalist, who worked with the team to pick the planters and the plants and to plant them. Our co-chair Joyce Markovics, and Jeff Schumacher, and Lisa Chang, who is a graphic designer and helped us figure out where to put them. So it was a team effort and I think a successful one. Thanks.
And they're movable, they're filled with stuff, and if we have a glass, yeah, they're all year round, and you know, the trustee Gazal just reminded me that we actually said we're gonna do fewer corners, but the emails went back and forth. Well, they're movable, and so in our folks at DPW building, whatever, looked at them, we've gotten a lot of positive. I think they'll be nicer even in the winter, because when all the flowers are gone and the greenery's gone, things begin to look a little darkish in this area of the country. So I think we'll see how it works. We'll see how it holds up. And thanks to everybody for doing that. So I think we're ready to go.
Okay,
Oh, I have one more thing. I'm sorry. My fault. This week we're meeting today on Monday because Rosh Hashanah is on Wednesday. So for all those that celebrate or have family members who celebrate, a happy New Year to everyone. And those that don't celebrate, you know, go to your Jewish neighbors and get some really good apples with honey, because it's a great combo. And I'll be celebrating with my family. And an extra special warm New Year welcome for the new grandfather in our midst. What a great time of the year for daughter to give birth. Name is,
Rose Sloan.
oh my God, what a great name. What a great name. So congratulations to you and Ellen and the whole family. And it's a wonderful time of the year to have children. Every day of the year is
I'll be
nice.
attending the 2025 budget hearing. Little young yet.
Oh, great. Okay, we're ready.
okay. Moving on to administrative reports, village manager Karen Tatori.
Good evening, everybody, and congratulations, Corporation Council, aka Grandpa. We had a great stakeholder meeting with our consultants, design consultants for the community center. So we kicked off the first meeting on September 23rd, and this included members of the recreation staff, other village staff, youth bureau staff, recreation advisory board, youth advisory board members, and members of the youth council, as well as the town supervisor and representatives of the senior nutrition staff. It was a really good, involved meeting. Our consultants listened to a wide range of, wants, needs, desires, dreams, hopes for the community center. And we all left with a good understanding or greater understanding of the many valuable functions the center serves and ways we can hopefully improve them. So we'll look forward to hearing back. We will be having broader engagements with the rest of the community in the coming weeks, and we will keep you apprised of those dates and times, and we will record them so they'll be on video, so you can view them too if you can't get out, and you can always write to us as well. But more information on that. Our consultants from THA who have been working on the multimodal site will be back to us sometime in November to present the final design based on community input for the multimodal transportation hub, also known as the parking structure that will be in the Brandwood lot. And that will be based on community engagement, information from stakeholders, first responders, police, fire, as well as suggestions from the placemaking committee. Today, Trustee White and I met with Bill Garrison and Veronica Roach from the Recreation Department, Alan Lutwin from Westchester Community Theater, and Joyce Markovitz from the Placemaking Committee. And we met to discuss planning for the Haunted Kill, an event that promises to be the most scary and fun event ever in the history of Ossining. We're very excited. There's a lot of surprises in store.
See, I was gonna say maybe just the village, because I highly doubt it will be better than the one that the town had.
In the village, I would say we have tough competition. We've had some good
Competition.
scary events, but for the village of Ossining, let me be very specific. So, because it would be hard to beat the town events, but, agreed. And again, we get great feedback on the planters. I've been getting some calls just to shout out how wonderful they look and how happy they make people. And we are gearing up for the 2025 budget season, and we are busy working. Each department head is working on their individual budgets, and we're meeting collectively to talk about budgets more comprehensively. And we look forward to meetings with the manager on the department budgets, as well as subsequent meetings with the board after we present the proposed budget. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Thank you. No, we're looking forward. This is like a fun place in the US to be, you know, these river towns during this time of the year, very cool time. I know the Girl Scouts do their scarecrows, like every corner of the place is bopping and moving around.
Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan, AKA Grandpa.
It takes some getting used to.
But this meeting's open.
Well, tonight we will be calling you that. After tonight, we'll stop with the ribbon.
Autumn has two Grandma Ellens, so it'll be an interesting.
Well.
We shall see. But one of them has been knitting like a bandit for a couple of months. I can say that. The one who sometimes watches us. Thank you, folks, for all those kind words. Tonight, we have a couple of local laws that will be adopted. One is amending Chapter 92 to remove the section with regard to foundation permits, which was a request made by this board. And that repeals that. The next deals with the Chapter 250 vehicles and traffic that basically amends the weight limit for vehicles up to 8,000 pounds in our village and municipal lots. So that will make it easier for the clerk's office. It will make it easier because we've had folks who come in with cars that are between the current 5 and what would now be 8. So that will do that. We're also calling tonight we'll be calling for a public hearing regarding the general penalties that we discussed last week in terms of what those penalties would be when they would come into effect. That there will be certain provisions in there dealing with obtaining double the profit that a particular property owner or either corporation or individual might make. On Friday, last Friday, I met with court staff primarily to discuss parking. We have a lot of parking trials coming up over the next couple of weeks. And I'll be working with staff there as well as with the chief and Lieutenant Mayorana to schedule all these trials. The judges have been very helpful in agreeing that we'll be able to do some of them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the day that we ordinarily have a court appearance. And probably what will happen is I'll handle some of the trials. My deputy will handle some because otherwise the calendar will become rather lengthy. So we'll be doing that, plus looking at other ways to sort of help streamline the calendar, both from the building code perspective as well as from our and the court's perspective, because calendars have been running longer, both from the code calendar as well as the parking calendar. So that's something that we're discussing, but the parking calendar is of immediate importance. We have I think we have 4 people who I believe among them have, I think, 15 to 20 tickets involving multiple officers. So getting all those folks in, we're working on the logistics to do that. I think we have a plan to do it, but we want to try to get through as many of those parking tickets as we can and dispose of them so that the folks don't have to keep waiting around and we can get decisions from the court quickly. So that's something we're doing. The local laws that this board recently passed, which would be 12, 13, 14, and 15, 15 being the most significant, the major zoning changes are all now in effect. They went into effect on the 20th of September when filed, thanks to the clerk, with the Secretary of State. I did send copies of those local laws to the court and also have advised the various departments that those laws are now in effect so that they can do that. I'll be working, and I'm sure with the assistant village manager and others, to put something together to advise particularly the zoning changes of the folks what those are, because one thought is to send it to a number of the engineers and architects that we deal with on a rather frequent basis, because they're going to be seeing these right away. As I said, those go into effect. They are now in effect. They've been in effect since the 20th of September. So that's really sort of the next thing to deal with. I know, Mayor, that was something you mentioned last week in terms of notification. The zoning changes are significant. The law itself is 88 pages in length, but a lot of it, we've shifted things around. There are brand new definitions in there. And particularly for folks who will be coming before the zoning board or having pre-app meetings, we want to make sure they all know of it so that when they come in, they're not looking at the old code. Similar, the revision that has gone into effect to change Chapter 162, our Housing and Maintenance Code. We're working with the building department staff so that they are now know to write their violations primarily under the state uniform code and no longer under the village code, because those village sections no longer are in effect. So that's again a learning process, but we're up to the challenge and we're getting to it. Thanks.
Police Chief Aaron Zimmerman.
I hear it from here, so I think it's working.
It is now. Good evening. Everyone hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, run down a list of events that we've got coming up. Tomorrow, on the 1st of October, the Civilian Police, the Civilian Academy, not just Police Academy, Civilian Academy, starting in conjunction with the Youth Bureau of Ossining. It's a 6-week program for high school students, and it highlights all the emergency services here in the village. So they'll be doing some time with us at the PD, as well as FD and EMS services with OVAC. So we're looking forward to kicking that off tomorrow at headquarters.
What happens when you finish? It's a course, right? Is it 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yes.
One time per week?
It's twice a week.
Twice a week. And what happens when you complete that program?
That's a great question.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll
as
check with
to-
Chima from
Yeah.
the Youth Bureau to find out. I don't know if, I honestly don't know if there's high school credit that's attached to this, or it's just an elective for fun.
Big community credit.
Yeah.
It's just like, I would love to know, should we replicate it? Like beyond the youth bureau, is there something else we can do with it? I'm not suggesting there is. I'm simply asking the question. I don't recall that we've done this before.
Yeah, we have run a civilian police academy before.
Right.
Really, it was for anybody in high school up.
Right.
And more often than not, we had a lot of adults in the class mixed in with some.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and COVID kind of put a squash
Mhm.
on that. So I guess with the rejuvenation of the program through the youth bureau, we're kind of ramping that up for high school students. It's definitely something we can look into.
Well, yeah, I'd love to hear if they get a certificate. I'm sure they're getting community credit, but what's the attendance? Like, do you have to go to all of them? 4/6 of them, or 4/6, I
Yeah.
guess would be 2/3, whatever.
I know it was a program that they had to apply for,
Right.
through the high school and through the youth bureau. It wasn't just, sign up and go. So there was a little bit of,
Yeah, no, this is great. I'm just
Yeah.
asking what happens at the end. Is it just a certificate? Do some of them, can they do internships at some of these first responder units, whether it's FD, whether it's EMT, whether it's, I don't know. So
Yeah.
if you could just send me an email or send the
Yeah,
board. I'm
sure.
just curious.
and
I think it sounds cool, by the way.
yeah, and
I
obviously.
feel like we
for-
should be doing this. Seriously.
And if nothing else, it's a nice way for, recruitment. This is awful. It's a good way to get a gauge on recruitment into some of these schools,
Oh, 100%. I like the fact that adults did it in the past, and maybe we should do a separate one for adults. I don't know, just asking some questions. I think it's really neat.
Yeah, we have the ability to run it now, so.
It is, but he's too far from it, because before it was just like,
It was given some feedback.
yeah, maybe it's that one. Yeah, that one's on. Okay,
It's droning on.
okay.
All right, so other than that, kicking off tomorrow, October 3rd, Coffee with a Cop is back. This time it's a little different. We have past and present members, so some retired members of the OPD will be there, as well as current members. That's 9 o'clock to 11 at Starbucks on Thursday, the 3rd. Also, on the 4th, since school's out in the morning, we're gonna have coloring with a cop at the rec center from 9:30 in the morning for about an hour and a half. Honestly, I think they missed the opportunity for cops and crayons, but we'll do that next year.
Somebody's got to work on the branding.
Yeah,
With a cop.
that's Friday night.
That's actually a great idea.
I'm gonna write.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Officer Carlson actually spearheaded both of those events and getting them running, so kudos to him.
That's great.
After a long awaited, I guess, break, National Night Out, we're doing Friday night. So Fridays, you can go from Cops and Crayons to National Night Out at the high school at 5 p.m. That goes from 5 to 9. And yeah, should be a good event.
Great.
On top of that, not really geared towards kids, but we've got I'm meeting with the PRAC and some of the the reform discussions that we've been having. We're kicking off really for the first time ever, I think, at least in my career here. We're gonna have 2 community meetings. We're calling them sector meetings. So what that means is that at 7 p.m. October 22nd at the library, there'll be a public meeting with the PRAC and members of the police department, and it's geared for those residents who live in sectors 1, 2, and 3. So there's a sector map that's posted. I believe the PRAC posted it online, and for those tuning in, if you live pretty much anywhere along Route 9 and on Croton Avenue East, that's sectors 1, 2, and 3. That'll be on October 22nd at the library. And not to neglect the other sectors in town, sectors 4, 5, and 6 will be meeting on November 7th at St. Paul's on the Hill up in the town hall. So, we're gonna See how that goes. Should be fun. Manny,
So
sounds like you have a question.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
That's fantastic. I really want to thank you for that because I think you and I had a conversation with that couple months back, and I know I had conversations with that with other members of the police department regarding neighborhood watch that they
Right.
had. But my question is not so much on that part, but more like the notifications to those sectors or those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
How you guys are approaching that so you guys can have. I don't think if you were outreach to all that whole different sectors of those neighborhoods, the library may not be a good place to have that meeting.
Well, I hear what you're saying. We thought about doing it at some houses of worship. I think the library is, I didn't come up with locations. The PRAC got together and decided on the locations for the meetings. I think, without using a school, that, we have to get the school involved in that, and, it's after hours and things like that. I know the library was available and it's a big enough venue to hold the people, and really, it's kind of in the middle of those three sectors. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there was some discussion about having it at different houses of worship. And originally the idea was to break it down into one sector per meeting. And I think just to get it kicked off the ground, we're going to incorporate it, because the year's running out. They wanted to really get it done before the year's end. And, incorporating multiple sectors into one meeting just to get a feel for, give it, I don't want to say a test run, but its initial trial at this and see how it goes from there. And then depending on the feedback and how that goes, then we can parse it out into, having a more localized sector meeting, like just in sector 1, just in sector 2, just sector 3, and throughout the 6 sectors throughout the village and town.
So thank you. How is the outreach? Who's outreach in those neighborhoods?
The outreach, I believe, is being all done through the PRAC.
Staff-wise, do we know, Maddie, Karen, do we know how they doing this? Can we figure this out? Can we ask how they doing this?
I'm happy to, because I
Awesome.
deal with
That's-
Pastor
that's-
Maris.
Well, the liaison just not here.
And he's not here.
Yeah.
Because I know that there was originally a suggestion of the schools.
Right.
And we had gone back and forth, and I think that's when Pastor Mary decided with regard to
They use the
The library.
library, yeah.
So in terms of the outreach, I can certainly inquire of her what is being
Right.
done in that regard. I think they have a meeting this week, if I'm not mistaken. I think just as their regular meeting.
Yeah.
I believe one of the things that will be discussed at that will be in fact with the.
Yeah,
steps
it's kind of an evolving thing, moving in sort of real time. I met with Pastor Mary last week and we shored up the dates and which sectors would be at which meetings. And I think the biggest concern with the schools was obviously, it's not a village building and it's not a house of worship where someone from the community can actually facilitate us using that, where we have to then, request permission to use it with the school, and that's staffing and all the stuff from the school end. So I think it's easier, maybe logistically, not to have it at a school unless it takes off and, we actually need the size of the school and they're on board with it, but that's a discussion for another day.
No, and I agree. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, you don't mind Stuart finding out. Again, I know it takes a lot of work because when I did the building department workshop, I did all the mailings myself because I got the addresses for Fernando at that time, the assessor's office, and that was a lot of coordination. So I'm just wondering if how they doing that to get the
I'll ask her tomorrow.
outreach for the community.
I'll
I'm not sure they have it yet. I met with her a few days ago. I'm not sure they have everything.
Yeah,
They did a first one. They had a handful of people. They didn't know what they were gonna get. So it's just, the idea is how do you engage a community is always a challenge. They started late, meaning they send out the material and post in social, but late, they understood that. They're gonna try to get, but they have to do it. It's their committee's initiative. And they need to, because they want to engage a community regarding their specific committee. So, let's get the dates and try out different places. And I'm sure they can go back to the library, which everybody feels comfortable in.
Yeah.
Or whatever they want, because it's like any committee. If a committee decides, hey, I want to do something, you know, at the park and in August and get together. It's, you know, they run it by us, but it's their effort, actually. So we'll see what they come up with.
And, you know, to your point a little bit, Manny, you know, I know you mentioned like a neighborhood watch thing. I just want to kind of, this is not a neighborhood watch initiative. You know, I know what you meant. I just want to, you know, make that clear.
Right.
I guess the spirit of these meetings will be kind of informing the residents who live in these areas. You know, one, opening it up for questions that they might have for either the committee and or the police department as far as what kind of policing goes on in, you know, their neighborhood where they live, the types of calls that the police usually respond to in those areas, the volume of these calls, you know, things of that nature versus, you know, like a neighborhood watch
Mhm.
initiative. Although, you know, obviously if something's going on, please let us know, but we don't want to encourage, you know, vigilante activities out there. You know.
The other thing, if I could ask you, the coffee with a cop, if you could maybe designate the next few days. Because one of the day, on Thursday, it's a Jewish holiday. Like I've actually gone, well, I've gone to one of these coffee
Yeah.
with a cop. So I wouldn't be able to go. In fact, most Jewish people who are observing that holiday, which is the biggest one of the year, is one of the biggest, is not going to be able to go. So it would be great if we did the next few. So, you know, I mean, there's always holidays of some religion, there's always events, there's always whatever, you know, and it's, you know, you can't do it on this day or that day or this place. I get it. So I'm not saying cancel it. I'm just saying, let's be cognizant and let's put the next 2 dates or something. That way people have other options, which would be really cool, because I'll be at the next one.
Sounds good.
Because it was fun. I think did in the bagel store last time on the Arcadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we, let's move it into downtown and up Route 9. It'll be really, it's a nice, the whole thing is really nice. It's terrific idea. Glad you're bringing it back.
Yeah, it's nice. And I, you know, aside from the program kind of coming back, you know, after a little bit of a hiatus, I think it's great that some of the younger officers are taking the initiative
Yeah.
to actually, you know, put forth the effort to put it together. Because
It's great.
like I said, it was, you know, it's a patrolman organizing all this and a new one at that. So
Great.
Kudos to them.
Love it. Now, were you finished or?
Yeah, I'm all done unless.
Okay, great. Okay,
Right.
welcome. Great. Okay, Sue, next.
Organizational announcements.
Where
So
are
I'm
we?
sorry, I can't hear
Right.
you.
Sorry.
The people,
Organizational announcements. Announcements shall be event related only and no longer than 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone in our audience that would like to speak on it? Okay.
that one.
Seeing no one, is there anyone in the online that would like to raise their virtual hand to speak on an event?
There is nobody in our virtual audience. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
Public comment on agenda items. Visitors are accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any resolutions on the agenda. Again, looking at my audience, there's no one here and no one there. Moving on, public comment on the, I'm sorry, I did that one. Visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but relevance to the common good of the village. Is there anyone? No one? Moving on to the agenda items. Approval of minutes, September 18th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the September 18th, 2024 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments, Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes, September 19th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the September 19th, 2024 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments, Sue?
All in favor?
Abstain.
Okay.
3. Okay. Approval of minutes, September 25th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the September 25th, 2024 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of voucher details, September 30th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 30th, 2024 in the amount of $1,257,801.73. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Sue,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this next one is a roll call vote, adoption of local law 16-2024, a local law amending chapter 92, building construction and fire prevention code, administrative and enforcement of the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, the village board has been considering the adoption of a proposed local law 2024 entitled the local law amending chapter 92, building construction and fire prevention code, administration and enforcement of the Village of Ossining Code. And whereas the public hearing was conducted on September 18th, 2024 at 7:30 PM at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, and via Zoom platform affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on September 18th, 2024, and whereas there's no impediments for approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts local law 16-2024, a local law amending chapter 92, building construction and fire prevention code, administrative and enforcement, and be it further resolved that local law 16-2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
any comments? I mean, this was discussed previously, but any comments? Sue,
Trustee White,
I,
trustee Quesada,
Aye.
deputy mayor Lopez,
Aye.
Mayor Levin.
aye.
Thank you. Got another roll call vote, adoption of local law 17-2024, a local law amending chapter 250, vehicles and traffic of the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees, of the Village of Ossining, the village board has been considering the adoption of the proposed local law 2024 entitled the local law amending chapter 250, vehicles and traffic of the Village of Ossining Code. And whereas the public hearing was conducted on September 18th, 2024 at 7:30 PM at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facilities, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, and via Zoom platform affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on September 18th, 2024, and whereas no impediments are to approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts local law 17-2024, a local law amending chapter 250, vehicles and traffic of the Village of Ossining Code, and be it further resolved that local law 17-2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, trustee White,
I,
trustee Quesada,
Aye.
deputy mayor Lopez,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Very much. Call for a public hearing, proposed local law 2024 entitled the local law amending chapter 1, article 3, general provisions, general penalty for the Village of Ossining Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees, Village of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on October 16th at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, to consider the proposal law 2024 entitled a local law chapter 1, article 3, general provisions, general penalty of the Village of Ossining Code, and be it further resolved that the proposed local law amends the fines for certain offenses under the village code, and be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that the members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Council no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofossining.ny.gov modified to afford the public sufficient time to provide reasonable accommodations, and be it further resolved that the members of the public who want to attend and participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available at the Zoom platform. It can be further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at BOT@villageofOssiningNY.gov. Another amendment. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any comments?
Yes. Thank you, Stuart, for sending that over the other day. I was wondering, I know that obviously did a lot of homework in regards to that because I read pretty much everything you sent. Why this is, you had at least 3 or 4 suggestions in regards to additional items that you say the board may consider to add into this law. Can we look into that a little bit more in depth? I was interested to actually do those implementations on this law, but I'm not sure if the rest of the board had the opportunity to read those or not, or they will agree or not to that.
Which ones?
In regards to the fines, there were some fines you looked at it, some of the municipalities like Portchester. I think Tarrytown had something similar where you,
I know Mount Kisco had the classes of
Kisco,
fines, I
yeah.
think is what you might have been referring to in terms of.
because you had like a 2 or 3 recommendations.
There were a
Yeah.
couple. I had sent I think,
I read it. I wrote that I like it to
Yeah.
be I read it and I stayed with what I thought was presented, regardless of having more knowledge and more information. It didn't change my opinion. To me, the whole bottom line is percentage of profitability that makes it unprofitable.
No, that was
So-
not what I was referring to. There were some suggestions that were not part of the law that Stuart made on are part of the email that I was wondering if the board had the opportunity
So
to read those.
specifically, which ones?
Have to go back and take a look at it.
Because collections, I read it. I thought I read the whole thing.
you said you approved what was the version that was presented?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So now I can't recall, but since I remember saying that and I remember reading the whole thing, I don't know which ones you're referring to. That's what I'm asking. And I don't remember if anybody else replied. I just saw that I did, but that doesn't mean others didn't. I'm sorry, you can hear me chewing on the candy. Sorry about that. A little bit of a sore throat.
Is anyone speaking right now? I can't hear anyone.
Nobody's talking.
Nobody's talking.
All right, thank you.
Manny's trying to find the specifics that he's referring to because I don't recall what they are.
Perhaps you could discuss it at the work session next week.
You want to table this?
No, I don't want to table.
Cool.
No, I don't want to table this, because this is just calling for public hearing. So I'm gonna
Discuss it
I'm gonna
next week.
highlight it and I'll give you a call tomorrow, Stuart. Is that okay?
Perfect.
And then we can send it back to the board, just
Yeah.
to clean, just those
Just
clean areas.
pinpoint the
We have
things that you want us to
stuff
look
that I
at.
would like to look for you guys to consider, and if that's okay,
Good.
Stuart, you'll
Good.
amend that,
Yeah,
on the public hearing. All right,
That'll be great.
fantastic, thank you.
that would be helpful. Yeah, that would be helpful.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very much. Amend 2024 cabaret license. Whereas on August 21st, 2024, the Board of Trustees approved the cabaret license for the 19th hole Golf Simulator Corporation, and whereas the type of entertainment identified in the board's resolution was recorded music, and whereas the 19th hole Simulated Corporation filed documentation with the New York State Liquor Authority amending its method of operation to include live music in addition to recorded music, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the amended 2024 cabaret license for the 19th hole Golf Simulated Corporation as follows: Sunday through Thursday, 12 noon PM to 11 PM, Friday and Saturday, 12 PM to 12 AM. Type of entertainment, recorded and live music, and to be further resolved that the village clerk shall issue an amended cabaret license to the 19th hole Simulated Corporation, and be it further resolved that except for the amended noted, I'm sorry, above the types of entertainment, this board's August 21st, 2024 resolution still stays in full force and effect for the more fully set forth hearing.
We
It
got
got
there.
me. It got me.
We did it.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Comments? I do. So this is within our standard, right? That we give everybody.
What happened here, Mayor, was we got an original application from the 19th Hole Golf Simulator Corporation. they identified their method of operation as recorded music. They subsequently filed an amended method of operation to include live music. And what our policy has been is that if in fact you amend your method of operation, your cabaret license would be amended to reflect the type of
It
entertainment.
doesn't change the occupancy numbers or
changes.
anything. I always thought the Arcadian actually didn't allow tenants to go beyond 10 PM or 11, but then I realized McDonald's is open till who knows when. So I guess so.
Be open 24 hours.
Yeah, it used to be 24. I just realized that. Okay, we're in the middle of a vote. Sue?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Very much.
Mayor, with regard to the next resolution, which is resolution either lead service line replacement, I'd respectfully ask that the board that there be a motion to table this resolution. I've had further reviews of the contract, which would be the piggyback contract, and I've raised some concerns with the water superintendent and with the village engineer. So at this point, I would ask that this resolution be tabled.
Okay,
Motion.
well, we have to have a motion.
Motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second,
Sue?
All in favor?
Aye. I just want to say it took me a whole lot of energy to understand all of the language. So tell Andy, like, I finally understood everything, so his time was not wasted.
Fire department appointment. Austin
Before you do that, I
Sorry.
just want to make a statement.
Okay.
So, I just want to let the board also know, we talked a couple of weeks ago or so that maybe one of to improve communications with the public, use the mayor's message, that when legislation is passed, that we then input it into the mayor message, which would be really every other week, because legislative is approximately every other week. So we're working on that. They're complicated, so I'm trying to figure out how to do this in English, not just do links to and I know Jamie tried for this week. It's still a little legacy, like a little too much legal stuff. Legalese. And so we're working on it. So maybe not this week, but next we're gonna try, because the whole purpose is not just to add links. The purpose is actually to figure out a way to put a synopsis in English without taking so much staff time that now we're spending all of this time just on this. But I'm hoping with the other ideas, so just following up on that. So we're working on it actually, and anybody has any ideas, it'll be great. I will say that somebody called me to complain this morning about the Route 9A noise because the construction's going on. It's right by a bunch of people's houses and they work through the night, which is when most people sleep. And so I got my first of a few calls, I guess, because the neighbors got together. I don't know how to make construction less noisy, but it's also not a village road per se. But what did come out of that conversation is huge compliments, and I hope Jamie's hearing this. What's that? Oh, something, the phone went out. Huge compliment to the website, because where the neighbors first went was the website, and they did not realize how much is on the village website, how easy it is to use. So out of this conversation came a huge compliment from somebody that was sort of angry. So you got to take it into perspective that in the middle of all that, he was saying the website's fantastic. And it's so much better than he recalls it being 2 to 3 years ago. So I wanted to do that so I don't forget about it, and then use the website again and the mayor's message to talk about a lot of the legislation. Because us doing like can't put barbecues in certain places. The drone thing, if we don't inform people, we can't expect them to know about it. Of course, we can always say ignorance is no excuse, but in fairness, we've talked about maybe trying to improve and widen the communication. So just want to let everybody know, being worked on. Sue.
Fire department appointment, Austin Hose Company number 1, resolved upon recommendation of the fire chief, Kevin Castro. Austin, New York was elected as an active member of the Austin Fire Hose number 1 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
so move.
Second?
Comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire department appointment, Washington Hook and Ladder Company 2, resolved upon recommendation of the fire chief, Brenna Burrows. Austin, New York was elected as an active member of the Washington Hook and Ladder Company number 2 for interior firefighting. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
So Dana said second,
Oh,
Sue?
sorry, I didn't hear. I apologize. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agreement with All Paid Inc. Resolved that following review of Corporation Counsel, the village manager is authorized to sign the merchant agreement with All Paid Inc. 7820 Innovation Boulevard, Suite 250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46278, whereby All Paid will act as the village authorized agent for the purpose of receiving on the village's behalf payments from customers purchasing railroad station and municipal parking lot parking permits issued by the clerk's office. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Continuing business of the board. None. New business of the board. Consider draft resolution to the Environmental Protection Agency regarding the cleanup of PCBs from the Hudson River.
So I brought this up. Susie Ross sent an email. I think you were all on there. It's long as far as the resolution goes. It's a town and village. We don't really do that. The village will do its own. I spoke to Karen this morning. Some of the folks will put something together with us, but what I needed to just bring up, because I personally, for me, I'm in support of it, but I do want it, put into an actual, like, readable resolution. I think I agree with most of it. A couple of things sort of hit me, not something I think need to be in there, but does anybody, because it's a public issue, so does anybody oppose it? Does anybody not? Obviously, and there was a time frame, but we have a couple of weeks on it. It was not, yeah, okay, so that's a month. Okay. Anybody have issues that they want to? Manny, everything's good? Okay, the only thing I honestly would like taken out, not because I'm opposed, I'm for it or against it, it's not the village, is the referral to beaches. It's just not in the village, and I'll let the town speak on that. So, okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So, second?
All in favor?
We don't have exec that I'm aware of. Okay. Great. Well, everyone enjoy. Congratulations again to the new grandfather. Are you staying here because you have a reason to stay? You're just not Pat, you. You're just staying here? Okay. I know.
Sergeant McGovern.
Yeah, Sergeant McGovern. Oh, okay, no, you're a member of the public. I get it. I didn't know if you were waiting for something else. Thank you. Good night. It is 9:11 and we are adjourned.